These days, a game's review score correlates to its quality like the width of George Lucas's neck correlates to the coherency of recent Star Wars films. Generally, the issue resides with media outlets granting overly generous scores to AAA games that are about as structurally sound as Rick Ross recreating The Walk on the night of September 10th, 2001, but they're sometimes the opposite problem. Fans of more difficult titles like Cuphead or Dark Souls have a short list of games journalists whose ineptitude is reflected in their final scores of a game, as difficulty dependency is to the FromSoft community what auto-tune dependency is to Andrea Bocelli. Between the margins of celebrated sewer water and inappropriately chastised challenge, we find something like Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2 spent a decade in limbo, getting passed around developers like Ganja at a coding conference, only to get shoveled down into the lowly yellows of Metacritic by people who think fun and zombies should finalize the divorce. This critical reception is more heartbreaking than the realization that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both going to run again in 2024, because Dead Island 2 is more genius than a DJ Khaled sex trafficking victim.
Matter of fact, you a genius.
Scathing satire, fleshed out combat mechanics, and gorgeously articulated LA vistas make Dead Island 2 the rapturous encore this fan of the first game always wanted. Let's get into it. Dead Island 2 stars one college brochure's worth of diverse potential main characters, each with their own unique skill tree and personality, unlike the real LA, where the two options are homeless or nepotism. The actual plot itself is the usual cure for the zombie outbreak business, handled here with about as much levity and grit as Lego Batman handles the concept of manslaughter. This game's blasé attitude towards its own plot points allows it to highlight the real star of the show, a washed-up rock star in purple panties, or a Gen Z fame-obsessed YouTuber who headbutts the fourth wall with her internet culture in-jokes.
Let them bodies hit the floor! And no swearing in the first minute. I'm already on 2 strikes.
Or really any and all of Dead Island 2's surprisingly smart satirization of LA personalities. This game is about as sensitive to LA culture as Ricky Gervais was to the passing of Jeffrey Epstein during award season, and this satirical ground pound is the thread that players will want to follow through with till the end.
Hey, buddy, you got blood coming out of your ears. You know that?
What? I can't hear you. I got blood coming out of my ears.
The gameplay of Dead Island 2 revolves around finding household objects and taping more household objects to them until it somehow results in some aspect of something being on fire. The game's level scaling and elementally dissimilar enemy combatants keep it from feeling like experimenting on GTA NPCs with stolen Home Depot goods. Even the most brutally bone-crushing endgame sledgehammers need to be tucked in and read a little bedtime story every time the player visits a workbench, so while slicing through a brain-dead deadlifter with an electric katana may not be challenging, it's the constant expansion and upkeep of the player's arsenal that's the worthwhile gameplay loop here. While sneaking into rich people's bathrooms because their unused hairspray can be deep web scienced into a chem bomb, players will visit every location in LA a family of overweight tourists could possibly want to see. The Santa Monica Pier, Hollywood Boulevard, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, they made that Weezer song into a real place. Beverly Hills mansions are all infested with plenty of appropriately costumed kickboxing practice for the player to decapitate and set on fire at will. Maybe it was the glitchy, nearly unplayable demo of Dead Island 2 I got to play nearly a decade ago at PAX Prime in Seattle, but I simply wasn't expecting the level of polish and granular detail on display here. As someone who lives 90 minutes outside of LA, I can safely say I'd rather visit Dead Island 2's blood-soaked combat sandboxes before I visit real-life's trash-soaked riot sandboxes any day of the week. Thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.